Now, I spotted a glaring inconsistency in Stephen Anderson's eschatology. Now, I agree with Stephen Anderson and many in the new IFB that the whole concept of the seven churches being seven separate church ages, where you have the Church of Laodicea, and that's this age, and it's a lukewarm church, and the persecuted church that went for a certain period of time. I think that's ridiculous. I think the seven churches were seven literal churches, and just like we can apply the book of Galatians or the book of Ephesians to ourselves today, but we also have to look at the historical context of what it was written in. But we can apply those principles to us today. It is the Word of God, and these things are applicable to us in this generation as well. But one thing I see Stephen Anderson do in his teachings, in his eschatology, he has a glaring inconsistency where he teaches the same thing that I've just said, but then he'll turn around and say that the Synagogue of Satan are modern day Jews. And he doesn't put it into its historical context. And so the Church of Smyrna, it says, I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. And in his videos, he straight away goes to modern day Jews. Isn't this exactly what he just started teaching against, in a sense where you just assume that this is a modern day group of people? And so we see other people mentioned. We see, Jezebel. I don't think that's really to do with the Jezebel of the Old Testament, but probably someone with just the same name. But we see the doctrine of the Nicolaitans. We see the doctrine of Balaam and things like that, which we know we have to put it in its correct historical context of the early church and who John was talking to in these churches in Asia. But Stephen Anderson, one minute he's saying, well, these seven churches are not church ages, but then he does this huge leap and goes, the synagogue of Satan is modern day Israel. It's like, but well, who were they in John's day? You know what I mean? And so this is a glaring inconsistency in Stephen Anderson's eschatology. Stephen Anderson, he denies the Holocaust. Now, he might have a few people dying here and there, because he doesn't want to be called a Holocaust denier. But at the end of the day, he disbelieves what people have said about the Holocaust. There's a double standard in his teaching where he says that these seven churches aren't to do with future periods of time. But then he jumps straight into the synagogue of Satan are modern day Jews. But Stephen Anderson, when you go through his Revelation series, he seems desperate to come against the Jews. He doesn't really expound on Revelation chapter 2 here. He just seems to just go straight to, I don't like modern day Jews, and let's just squeeze them into the text here. And so, can we relate this to modern day Jews? Well, we have to be very careful. Who are we relating the Nicolaitans to? There are some Gnostic groups that rose and fell, and they're not around today. And so we can't just squeeze whoever we want into that. We can't squeeze the square peg into a round hole. We've just got to be careful with doing that. And I just thought I'd point out the glaring inconsistency, because one minute Stephen Anderson's saying these seven churches are not talking about the future. They're not talking about these periods of time. And then straight away he's going, well, the synagogue of Satan are modern day Jews. It's like, no, you just actually taught against that. But we see Anderson is very deceptive. He's self-contradictory, and people like Donnie standing for truth, praise I am. Many people who follow Anderson, they do this same error.